Glad you are with us on Wealth by Design. Brad Johansson with Tom Elder, President, Retirement Wealth Design. And we're here for the first time together. Nice to be with you.
Great being with you too, Brad. This is excellent.
I mean, this is excellent. The whole idea is education. How do we figure out this whole retirement thing that nobody ever taught us how to do? Tom's right in the middle of that, been in the middle of it for a long time. And as we kind of get this introduction, I think it's important to have a little background on this. You jumped into this. Give me an idea how this whole wacky thing started for you as you're starting to move forward, because it is building a great amount of momentum in the community.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate that. That means a lot to me. We're really trying. So when I was a kid, my grandpa was a huge influence in my life. And he ended up buying a condo that was about a 10-minute bike ride away from my house. And so growing up, I got to spend a lot of time with my grandfather. And he taught me a lot of lessons. And the biggest lesson that he taught me is success in life isn't about what you drive or where you live or what you have in the bank account. Success in life is about the impact that you have on the people around you. And so I grew up believing that. And when I finally got to an age where I understood that I can have an impact on the people around me, the place that I wanted to start with was my dad. And so my dad was actually my first client in this business. And
Really?
he is how I built out my entire process, was with what my dad taught me by being the first client of mine. He taught me that it's not about what you have saved, it's about the purpose behind your money. It's not about just the investment growth that was concerning to him. It was about how he was going to use the money, how he was going to keep the money, and what the money was going to do for him in the long term. And so that's how I built out the entire process of my firm. Is we start with purpose, and then we work our way back to the tools and the strategies that we use to get you where you want to go.
This isn't always that easy. And I mean, kudos to your family, especially to Grandpa, for teaching that early on that kind of foundation. In working through this, for a lot of you, you probably had an advisor. Many of you have worked on accumulation for decades, maybe 4 or 5 decades trying to do this. Why would I even think about designing something different? You worked with some of these large, big box firms going through the beginning of this. What's different about what you're doing now and why you decided to leave where you were?
That's a great question. For me, just like I start with purpose for my clients, I start with purpose with how I designed this company. This company was designed very, very intentionally. One, being fully independent. We are not tied to any company, any product, any investment. We are fully independent. We also operate on the fiduciary standard, which means that we put our clients' interests before everything else. Legally and ethically, we are putting our clients' interests above all else. And that's very important to me, and that's part of the reason why, based off my core values and core beliefs, I had to branch out on my own. It wasn't necessarily me saying it was time. It was a God thing pushing me in the direction of starting this business.
How about that? And the idea for what you say is we have to do everything in the best interest of each of our clients. There are many of advisors out there, and many in the accumulation, who are very good advisors, but aren't allowed to do anything different because of the scope of the amount of clients that they have. Everybody has to be in that same type of plan. Why is this different individualistically? And I think for you, probably the key driver to kick you out the door and say, I've got to do this on my own.
Yeah, I think that from my perspective, it's challenging when you work for a very large firm and you are intended to have a certain amount of clients, and that's how everything is built off, is profitability. And so for me, what we do is we intend to treat each client individually. We don't do any type of big type of investment. We don't do anything that is really just a segment of putting it into...
Cookie cutter.
That's the word I was looking for,
How about
Brad.
that?
Thank you. Cookie cutter. So we don't do anything cookie cutter. Everything is built specifically based off the individual situation. Some people want and need more risk in their retirement to get them where they want to go.
Yeah.
Some people want more conservative style investments and don't need it, just want to keep what they have and make sure they're outpacing inflation and their money's growing for the long term. But there's no kind of one size fits all.
Yes.
And the challenge is when you have too much coming at you at once or you have too many clients, it's really hard to do that. And so how we built this firm is we want a very individualistic approach
Yeah.
where every client is different, every client has a different story, and every client needs different investments. And so that's what we do is we design their specific plan based off of who they are and what is in their best interest for where they want to go, whether it's income, taxes are important, healthcare, legacy planning. A lot of my clients just don't want to be a burden on somebody else. And so if that's the case, we need to invest a different way than somebody that's trying to maximize their legacy over the long term or somebody that wants to spend all their money before they die, right? It's going to be different strategies, different investments for every type of
Okay,
client.
you say strategic planning, and I want to go into that because it still rings in my head that Dad was the first client. So how have you grown from understanding Dad's the first client, here's where I need to go, to the strategic planning of individuals right now as to where you stand and what you've learned over that time in moving from one of these big boxes to doing this individually? Is there a core, a holistic piece of the puzzle that you have an understanding of what we have to, because you mentioned a bunch of them. We've got to deal with taxes. We've got to deal with medical. We have to understand asset preservation and legacy planning. How does that work individualistically for what you're doing?
So for me, it all comes down to income planning. I don't understand how people have a retirement plan without a retirement income plan. Because the purpose going from that saving and accumulation phase to the spending phase, that's a totally different style of planning. You need a different style of investments. You have different goals. When you're saving and accumulating your assets, those style of investments, shoot, when the market drops, it's a good thing because you're buying more cheaper, right? But when your nest egg is tied in the market, now you're having to take income off of that or the distribution phase, all of a sudden, those market declines really, really hurt and can hurt the long-term potential. And so one of the things that we do is we start with the income plan. I can't tell you if doing Roth conversions and saving in taxes is going to be a good idea for you this year without knowing what your tax bracket's going to be in retirement. So we start with the income plan, and then we move to the investment strategies. What tools do we need to accomplish that? And then we start looking at taxes. And can we make some strategic tax moves to save you over the next 5, 10, 15 years in retirement, save you tremendous amount of money in taxes? And then we look at healthcare and we look at legacy planning. What's going to happen when you're gone?
You talk about this as being transparent and saying, I want people to know what they're getting into. Do they know how they're paying for this service of trying to figure out strategic, holistic planning, that putting the pieces together, and this is a puzzle? Doesn't everybody do it the same way?
No, unfortunately, everybody doesn't do it the same way. Unfortunately, what tends to happen is it can get very, very confusing for individuals. There might be people watching this right now that have no idea what they're paying their financial advisor in fees. And that's one of the things that we do is before we even charge anything, before we work together officially, right, we do a side-by-side comparison. I do a fee analysis for people. This is how much you're paying currently. This is how much I'm going to charge you. And there's different ways that it's charged. There are some that are more of a transactional-based advisor approach, that they charge commissions and trade fees, right? There are some that are money managers and that are just charging a percentage of fee for assets. There are some that are charging an overall fee for the planning. But regardless of how you're paying, your financial advisor isn't doing it for free, right? And so one of the really important cornerstones is if you're paying money for something, what kind of value are you getting for that, right? If you're paying somebody a fee for asset management, what are they doing to earn that fee? What kind of value are they bringing to the table? Are they actually saving you money in the long run, or are you just paying a percentage fee that's just coming out of your assets as you go through time, which is costing you more than it's giving you value?
How much is this costing you at this point? And maybe at this point, getting a second opinion is exactly what you need. Well, how much is that going to cost me? It's complimentary to put together a written financial plan with retirement wealth design. And the idea is maybe it is time for a change. Maybe some of these things that we're talking about are things that my advisor hasn't talked to me about. And maybe it's time to make the call to 833-348-3888 4813 to put together a complimentary written financial plan. You can scan the QR code that's on your screen as well. But do this for you, to have an understanding of where you are, what you've been getting, and are you getting what you pay for? Or is it time to understand a little bit more about what you have and where you need to go for a retirement that's going to last until your last breath? 833-348-4813. Make the call now. We'll be back after this.
How I got in the financial space was really based off my grandfather. My grandfather grew up in poverty, Great Depression, like a lot of people. He taught me that a full life is not about what you have, what you drive, what's in your bank account. The purpose of life, how to have a full life, is serving other people. I grew up in a great household, had a great dad that taught me a lot of lessons about work ethic. One of the biggest lessons he taught me was if you're going to do a job, do it right or don't do it at all. But my grandfather really instilled in me the servant's heart mentality. When I got old enough that I finally realized I could have an impact on the community around me, that I was given gifts that could be used to serve others, one of the people that I started with was my dad. My dad was a great father of four, worked his whole life, sacrificed for us. One of the areas that he told me that he had always struggled with and struggled to find good advice was finances. So when I realized that I had a gift for finances and that I could actually help those around me, I started with him. And he was one of my very first clients ever. And he still is today, and I'm proud to say he's successfully retired and helps take care of my kids now. But that's how we treat everyone that we work with. We try to serve those around us because at the end of the day, that's why we're here.
So glad you are with us on Wealth by Design. Brad Johansson along with Tom Elder, President, Retirement Wealth by Design. Retirement Wealth by Design just happens to be the title of the book that you have put together. If you would like a copy of this book, Tom would like you to have it as well. We'll do this by sending it out to you for free. Retirement Wealth by Design will fill you in. I think for a lot of people, I don't even know the questions that I'm supposed to ask moving in. This may help provide some of those. Scan the QR code. I'll leave this up for a moment as we talk about this because I think this is significant. You're just finishing this thing up.
I am.
Why so significant for you to put this together and now send it out to the public for free to say, I'd just like to educate?
So it's really important to me from an education perspective because I know there's conflicting information out there. I know that depending upon what you're searching for is what you're going to find when it comes to internet searches. I know that AI is able to now give different responses, and the problem is that you don't really know the purpose behind the information that you're given. So I've actually spent the last year writing this book, and why I chose to write this and how I put this book together was based off of the hundreds and hundreds of people that I have helped to and through retirement at this point. These are common themes, common questions that come up, and it breaks everything down in a very easy to understand format to where even at the end of the chapters, I include a challenge. And you'll get a challenge so that way you can take what was written in the chapter and apply it to your own financial situation. You can actually handwrite in the book is how it's intended. There's lines to write in there so that way you can start having that momentum, moving yourself forward throughout your retirement planning process. And the entire purpose is to add value and to leave you better off.
You start out this book, your first chapter, in the psychology of wealth in retirement. Yeah. I think this is so key now for us to understand the feelings, the mental. Why is this the beginning for you, the psychology of retirement?
So in my opinion, retirement is 50% psychological, and it's 50% financial. And people always want to consider the finances, and that's what the bulk of the book is about, is the finances. However, you got to take time and really process the psychology of retirement because different people go through different emotions. There's 4 key stages of retirement, psychologically speaking. However, there's different types of people. Some people have a challenge with just starting to spend their money. They have been so conditioned to save your money, save it a little bit of your paycheck throughout the life for the last 40 years, that when it comes time to start spending the money, it's hard. And that's normal to feel that way. There's other people that are hesitant to retire because they don't know how they're going to spend their time. They know that they need to spend their time doing something, but they don't know how. And so I have different ideas, different suggestions, different things that I've seen along with the 4 stages of retirement, because at the end of the day, where you're at is where you're supposed to be. Now, how do you get to the place to where the majority of retirees say, these are the best years of my life?
See, I'm intrigued through all of this, so I kind of want to lead you through, you go back to the modern dilemma of retirement. What's the modern retirement dilemma for you?
So the modern retirement dilemma is we're in a different stage than your parents or your grandparents were in, okay? Whether it be they used to have pensions, right? There's kind of 3 pillars of retirement back in the day, right? They called it the 3-legged stool even. And it was Social Security, it was pensions, and then your retirement savings. Well,
Yeah.
Pensions have kind of gone away. There's still a few that have them, but they've kind of gone
We got
away.
about 12% of America left with pensions.
Absolutely, and that's the challenge is then now you're left to manage your retirement savings yourself. Your ex-employer is no longer doing that. And so that's a huge problem. However, in today's retiree situation, there are many more tools. There are many more styles invested. There are investments that used to only be only be allowed for hedge funds to access.
Yeah.
Now, that's available for most retail investors. And so what are those and how do we manage and how do we look at that and how do those fit into our plans? Because if you watch your parents or grandparents retire, right, your retirement's gonna be very, very different.
Very different.
The goal is typically the same, but how you do it's gonna be very different. And that's the dilemma nowadays.
So you get to, you said at the top of the program, I'm listing off all of these things, but it always ends up being about income. It's what we want. We want income if we're stopping our job to last forever. You've got 5 big income challenges. Can we touch on exactly what those 5 are?
Yeah, so there's 5 major income challenges. And at the end of the day, I like to start income planning with just not what you need, but what do you want, right? And so part of the process for income planning is going to be figuring out what do you feel like will make you have the retirement lifestyle that you want, to where you're not having to feel broke every day, to where you don't have to look at receipts when you go out to eat, to where you don't have to check on, oh, can we afford this tonight, or can I get the kids this Christmas gift or the grandchildren this Christmas gift, right? To where you don't feel like you're living strapped. And then we start adding on the wants, right? Do you want to take a big trip? Do you want a new car? Do you want to remodel the kitchen in your house, right? And we start adding on these wants. And in doing so, we're gonna start pulling out larger chunks of money, which we need to plan for as part of that income. And then we're gonna start adding on things like healthcare, right? Or even RMDs. When you get to a certain age, you're gonna be forced to pull money out of your retirement accounts. Is that gonna start draining them and overtaxing you at that point? Because if so, we should plan beforehand and start getting to a more strategically tax advantage plan. And then finally, do you wanna leave a legacy? Is that something that's important to you? Because if you do income planning right, you're not gonna run out of money, and there's gonna be a bucket of money left because you don't know when your last day is gonna come. And so how do we pass on what is left in a tax efficient way to where your 40 years of retirement savings that you worked so hard for are gonna go where you want them to go and not go into Uncle Sam?
The book is yours, Retirement Wealth by Design. It is packed full of the information that all of us desire as we try and figure out this retirement game that nobody taught us. Scan the QR code. We'll send it out to you for free. 833-348-4813 is the number to call. And that's to put together a complimentary written financial plan so that we can put this all together for you and it suddenly makes sense. Can I do this? Absolutely you can. with the help of Retirement Wealth Design. 833-348-4813. We're back after this.
Our entire vision for our growth at Retirement Wealth Design is to keep a personalized experience, to know every single person that we work with, but to bring into the fold other people that fit our culture, that care about the community, that care about the individuals, and that are the absolute best at their role that they can be. We want to make an impact in our community, and the first place that we start is making an impact in our team. So one of the things that we promote within our company is our own financial literacy and understanding. And then we try to promote that throughout the community. We want to be a pillar within our community. And I think that from a servant's heart perspective, our impact starts with us internally. And if we can serve our team is going to serve our clients, who are also going to serve our community.
Hey, so glad you are with us on Wealth by Design. Brad Johansson, Tom Elder, President, Retirement Wealth Design. We've got the book here for you. I think this is important for you to get in your hands. Retirement Wealth by Design. You scan the QR code. I'll leave that for you. Tom's going to send that out to you for free. It is daunting for a lot of you. I don't know whether I want to meet with somebody. And yet a lot of you have advisors and say, I've been with somebody for a while, but have they talked to you about any of these things that we're now presenting to you? Maybe, maybe not. Maybe it's time for a second opinion. But change is hard for a lot of us, Tom, as to move to somebody different, let alone, or maybe I've never done this before. So somebody calls for a book, scans for a book, makes a call and says, I'd like a complimentary visit, I think. What are we in for when we reach out and say, I'd like some help with this?
Yeah. Very first and foremost, I understand where you might be coming from with that, because there's a lot of people out there right now that I sit down and talk with that it was a big step just to reach out. It can be a little bit daunting because you might feel like I don't have it all together, so I don't want to reach out until I have it all together. Or you might just have questions and you're looking for somebody to answer the questions, but you're not ready to commit, or you think you're going to be sold something. I will tell you that people that have felt this way have found that when they sit down working with me, it's very casual, it's very laid back. This first meeting that we have is simply to get your questions answered. I'm here as a sounding board. If you have questions that you're looking to get answered, I'm happy to answer them. It is not a sales conversation. It is, I'm not trying to push anything. This is the purpose of my business. The purpose of us being here is to try and better communicate and inform our area. I mean, I feel like I am called, the purpose of me being here is by you seeing me, by you interacting with me, I am called to leave you better off than before we met. And so I have lots of people that want a second opinion. I have lots of people that I get together with that have been with their advisor for years, and they're just wondering, am I doing the right thing? Is this the right thing? Am I ready to retire? And I'd just like a second set of eyes on it. I'm happy to provide that for you. And that's what I will do, is I will break it down very simplistically. I'll get to know you and your situation. And at the end of the meeting, it's usually only 45 minutes to an hour. I'll give you some answers. I will answer your questions. I'll give you clarity. You'll leave more confident, and you'll feel like you're in better control. And whether we work together or not, it doesn't matter to me at that point. It is more about, can I add value during that meeting? Because at the end of the day, why we're here is to serve you.
Accumulation versus distribution. We kind of talked about this to begin the show, that for a lot of people, you've been with advisors who are working very well on accumulation. At least they should have been. Over the last several years, the market has done really well. And so if you have an accumulation advisor, why would I change as I get close to retirement? Explain the difference between people who have now helped accumulate the wealth and specialists who make sure that the climb down the mountain is a little bit easier.
Yeah, I was just with somebody the other day. They'd actually been with their advisor for 14 years. And they were, retirement's about a year out for them. and they had come to one of my workshops that I do, and they had some questions. And so they scheduled some time to sit down and talk. It's a complimentary visit, and I'm happy to be a sounding board and then give advice. And what we found was that sitting down together, they were at a different stage of their life. Their advisor they had been with for about 14 years had done a fantastic job for them. But now they were getting ready for retirement. This individual had thought they were in a conservative portfolio, had voiced they wanted to be in a conservative portfolio, and in fact they weren't. In fact, they're actually a little bit over leveraged in cryptocurrencies. And unfortunately, that's what had caused their portfolio to recently decline, which is what had caused them to want to get a second opinion, because they felt that, why am I losing all this money all of a sudden? And this isn't uncommon. I had some people that last April, right, had the same type of experience. They had taken some market shocks, and they started to realize that they were taking a little more risk than they thought they were in their portfolios, especially being this close to retirement. And when we actually did an analysis of their portfolio, they were in a lot of risk. In fact, this individual that I'm talking about, if with their current portfolio, if we would have gone through a crash like we did in 2008, their portfolio would have lost 56.8%. And I asked them, if you lost half your money right now, would that change your retirement? They said, of course it would. I wouldn't feel comfortable retiring in a year. If you have a sinking feeling, if your gut is saying, I need a second opinion, like this individual did, I would trust your gut, because at the end of the day, it doesn't cost you anything. You're gonna get more confidence or more clarity walking out of it, and it is vital that you understand where you're at, and are you comfortable with where you're at? Because I'm just here to be a sounding board, but at the end of the day, you should have clarity for how much risk you're taking. Is your income plan going to support your lifestyle in retirement? And are you in the best spot that you can be right now?
Is that what you're looking for? I mean, just to be in the right spot. Maybe it's to understand, do I need a second opinion? And maybe the book is part of that as well. But maybe just a few minutes of sitting down and saying, here's what I'd like my retirement to be like. We'll change everything for you. Make the call. Don't wait any longer. 833-348-4813. Let's put together a complimentary written financial plan that is yours and yours alone. It's Retirement Wealth Design, and this is Wealth by Design. We can't wait to see you in the office. Right back here next time.